Welcome to Optimus Fantasy Football, where there is no offseason. Today, we are breaking down the wide receivers attending the 2026 Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, before we hit the ground on January 26th, less than a week away. From Lewis Bond out of Boston College to small school speedster Ted Hurst, we've got you covered. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Optimus Fantasy Football. We are here today to cover the wide receivers attending the 2026 Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. I'm Nate Polvogt.
I'm Cam White. We're going to kick this thing off with Elijah Sarratt, the Indiana wide receiver, coming in at 6'2", over 200 pounds, checking in at 209. Nate, what are your thoughts on Sarratt?
Cam, Sarratt was really interesting to watch. He works best out of the slot, in my opinion, but he does line up wide quite a bit. He's a decent route runner. He lacks pop in his routes, though, which is something that kind of concerns me a little bit. However, that's things that we can see them work on. His footwork's a little bit clunky, but he is fast. He's got a good deal of speed and really good stride in routes. I like the way that he cuts in route, even with that clunky footwork. He's still able to create a little bit of separation there. But overall, he was a fun one to watch. I think that he's probably the most pro-ready guy that we're going to see in Mobile. I don't know that he's necessarily the best receiver we're going to see in Mobile, but I can see him starting week one, Cam.
I'm seeing the same thing, and when I'm watching his film, when it comes to starting in week one, it's going to be because of his blocking. He's a guy, he's easily the best blocker of all these wide receivers headed to Mobile. He gets out to the safety on run blocks, really sets that edge. A lot of these other guys have trouble getting from that corner to the safety in time, but he really hustles out there and sets that block. So that's going to get him out in the field. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe 50% of snaps in week one for him, depending on where he lands. Um, he's really a polished physical wide receiver. When we're talking about his traits as a separator, he's more of a guy that's going to be physical with you at the break point, and that's where he's going to create his separation. He can stack guys vertically, doesn't get a lot of separation there, but again, he wins with physicality at the top of the route, and that's where he's really going to shine. And hopefully, we see those traits show off in Mobile. He's one of my favorite wide receivers attending the Senior Bowl. He won this national championship game, so he's going to have a lot of buzz coming in. There's going to be a lot of eyes on him.
Yeah, the physicality was definitely noted when I was watching the film, but he has to be that way because he doesn't have especially quick footwork, especially pre-snap, post-snap at the line, which it really hurts him in press coverage, which is I think is something we both kind of noted in the film. But that's something I'll be looking for in Mobile, how these coaches are working with him, the wide receiver coaches specifically. It was something we saw with Ricky Pearsall. He was awful against press coverage, but by the time he left Mobile, he was very good with it. Now, KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M, Cam, he was my favorite one to watch. Out of all of the film we watched, I loved Concepcion. I love the name, too. Great field awareness in this kid, which isn't something you see a ton at the college level. There are some guys in this class we'll talk about where I noted that as well, and I think we both did. He knows where he is. He uses his feet to create separation. He really finds a lot of open space and zone coverage. It seems to be one of the things he does the best, is finding those soft spots and then just kind of sticking in them and making himself available to the quarterback. Concepcion, obviously we like Sarratt a lot. We like Concepcion. Where are you on KC Concepcion, Cam?
I think Concepcion's probably the best prospect that we're going to see there as far as like top end ceiling talent. I've got three words for him. It's evasive, strong, and violent. He's very tough to get your hands on out in space. He's good at using his hands to create separation, a lot like Sarratt is. He's an absolute load to tackle once he's got the ball in his hands. And I think that was one of the best traits that I saw in film. He's able to pull through two tacklers, break tackles, put you on skates and get past you and get to that second level. He does beat man, zone, and press coverage extremely well. A few of the things that I need to see him clean up are going to be just his hands. Concentration drops were a little bit of a problem for me. But he's got the full skill set, and I think he's probably going to be one of these elite wide receivers we're talking about. Maybe in your rookie drafts, he's going to be end of round one, beginning of round two kind of guy that you're looking at. That's got that high upside, but you're not entirely sold on him being a first round prospect for you.
Yeah, so he's a guy I'd like to see in Buffalo. Quite honestly, I think that skill set with Josh Allen and what they're lacking there, he would be an exceptional fit a lot of where I put Concepcion in rookie drafts is going to depend on landing spot. And that's going to be a kind of a common theme with a lot of these guys. Though Concepcion, I think, might be the most landing proof spot guy here as well, just with the skill set and the talent. And I love how just physically violent he is on the field. And I love that you noted that, Cam. Now, Germie Bernard over at Alabama, I didn't expect a lot out of this kid's film. I haven't really been in love with the Alabama offense this year. However, I loved Bernard a lot more than I thought I was going to. Really good footwork at the line, in route, and at the point of the catch. He makes himself available to the quarterback, and that's something we're probably going to talk about a lot this week. And as we're getting into a lot of other draft prospects, is do these guys make themselves available to the quarterback? Germie Bernard is very good at getting big at the point of catch. He's not afraid to go after the ball. He's really elusive in traffic. His footwork in traffic was great. Plus, he's got that acceleration when he's in tight space where he can blow by guys. All around, I was really impressed with his usage too, seeing him on those screens and jet sweeps, the footwork, the yards after catch ability with Bernard. I really loved everything about him. In saying all this, you would think I would say he's my favorite wide receiver here. He's not, but I think that the ceiling for him might be higher long-term than any of these other guys.
That's one of the things that I'm noting is as we're going through all of these prospects and watching film is that maybe the wide receiver talent is actually a little bit deeper than we thought going into this. There's been some conversations around this draft potentially being a little low on talent, but I think the wide receivers, there's actually a lot of depth here. Specifically to Germie Bernard, he's a great blocker. I really think he's a bully out there on the field. Alabama puts him in a lot of different positions alignment wise. They'll have him out wide where he does struggle a little bit to separate if you're going to tie him to the boundary against man coverage. But they'll also put him in the backfield, run him out of the slot, a lot of motion, jet sweep kind of stuff. He uncovers really well on scramble drills, which is one of the things you pointed out, working back to the quarterback when the QB's in trouble. Runs the full route tree, and I was really impressed with him as a yak guy too. Once he's got the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker and he's a load to bring down. Another one of these physical wide receivers that I think as the NFL continues to focus on yak, he's going to find a place in the NFL. I kind of look at him a little bit like a Deebo Samuel type, but I do see him a lot more involved on the field. A guy that's not going to, because he's not the first option, kind of take a play off. He's going to be out there pushing hard every single one of the downs he's on the field.
Yeah, the physicality in this class that we've seen so far is really impressive. You don't see a lot of guys who are afraid of contact, and Bernard's certainly not afraid of contact. What I like too is he is a very smooth route runner. Like he gets to his spots quickly, efficiently, on time, gets his hands in position. I like the way he moves to the ball. I like the way that he extends for the ball. He's not one of those guys who's trying to catch it up against his body like we've seen in some of this film. Just all around very talented. Now, Reggie Virgil at Texas Tech, I like Reggie Virgil. I think he is the best Texas Tech wide receiver we're going to talk about, though Caleb Douglas is close. He's got good hands, Cam. He's got a wide catch radius, good footwork at the top and bottom of routes. The things I don't like about him is he gets choppy, happy feet, and that's whether he's trying to cut with the ball or he's in route. He makes up for some of that with his speed. He's not a complete player. There are a lot of things that we're going to need to see in Mobile and things he's going to need to work on ahead of the draft, but I like his profile and I like what his upside could be coming out of Mobile.
He, along with Caleb Douglas, is a guy that I think is probably going to profile as an X in the league. He does show late hands. He's able to catch the back shoulder throws. He's got great speed. He's 6'3", which when we talk about Caleb Douglas, he's also 6'4". So Texas Tech really just had some massive wide receivers on their team. Mostly works on the outside, does show the ability to be a yak guy. I think he's difficult to bring down, but I don't find him necessarily elusive. I do think he's got play strength again, not so much as the previous guys we've talked about today, but I like the talent. I think there's something there. Probably going to be an outside guy. And as far as looking at our rookie drafts, he's going to be a guy that is maybe like, the end of round 2, somewhere in round 3, but it's going to be landing spot dependent. If he goes to an empty wide receiver depth chart, maybe there's a little something there, and he's going to rise as we continue moving through this draft process.
Yeah, and I could see that. Again, landing spot means so much with these players. Now, Lewis Bond out of Boston College, I really loved watching him. And I told you earlier today after I finished his film, like, what can't this kid do? He runs a full route tree. He has very few weaknesses. He's not the fastest player on the field. That might be his biggest weakness. But what he doesn't have in speed, he makes up for in physicality and like just sheer will. He wants to be on the field. He plays really, really hard. He's really good in space. He's really good in route with his footwork. He's very physical. He's not afraid to push defensive backs around. And at the point of catch, he gets very physical as well. He wins contested catches fairly regularly. And we saw some packages, Cam, with jet sweeps and backfield work where he gets to the line very quickly, cuts and gets upfield. These are the kinds of packages you could see in the NFL. He reminds me quite a bit of Deebo Samuel in addition to Germie Bernard.
Yeah, Lewis Bond was by far my favorite watch. I didn't know what we were going to see turning on his film, and I came away pleasantly surprised. There's, obviously Concepcion, Sarratt are the big names, but I think Bond could be right up there with them and is going to be one of the risers that we're talking about coming out of the Senior Bowl. He averaged 7 catches per game last year, and he had 9 games on the season with more than 7 catches. He had multiple quarterbacks this past season, which, when you're going through QB changes midseason, it's usually going to disrupt your passing offense. But that really wasn't a problem for him. As far as route running is concerned, he is maybe not exotic is not the word I would like to use, but he is an abnormal route runner where I saw a euro, a dead leg. He had like a stutter move where he was about to fall down and then continued past the DB for a long bomb. He's a really fantastic route runner. Shows late hands. You called out that he's a physical guy. He's going to create contact with those DBs and get that separation. But I also see that he creates separation just by running his routes. He's great getting open on his stems. There was a zig that I saw where he just absolutely loses the defensive back for a quick pass out to the sideline. And I believe he picked up a first down on that play. But he plucks the ball away from his frame with his hands. He's not doing any body catching. He was definitely one of my favorite prospects to watch, and he's going to be a guy that I'm probably going to find myself reaching for when we get to rookie drafts.
Yeah. I like Boston College wide receivers. I was high on Zay Flowers too. I think sometimes these guys come into drafts underrated because of Boston College and, well, the most well-known Boston College player is Doug Flutie, if you're old enough to remember. All right, Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech, the other half of this duo, 6'4", 210 pounds. These last two guys are big, physical wide receivers. Caleb Douglas, a little bit lanky. He's got long arms, gives him a really nice wide catch radius, and he's able to get at the ball. He doesn't necessarily like to go up for the ball as much, but he can, but he definitely goes out and around for it. Pretty good footwork. Size-wise, he's a little bit faster than you would think. His mid-route footwork is excellent. One of the best we saw in all the film that I watched. His footwork at the line gets clunky. That's going to be an issue in press coverage if we see any of that. And we'll see him pushed into press coverage in Mobile. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that, Cam. What are your thoughts on Caleb Douglas?
I liked Caleb Douglas. I think he is another guy that shows late hands. He attacks the ball away from his frame, uses his frame to his advantage on deep balls. He's able to create separation and go up and get it. He's running past guys on the sideline. Like we said earlier with Reggie Virgil, I think he's going to be another X-style receiver. Did not really see him moved around the field into the slot very often. It was a lot of like boundary routes that I saw. He's got good speed, and I think he's going to be able to perform the X role at a higher level than some of these other prospects we're going to talk through.
Yeah, that's kind of where I have him too. He's an X receiver. He doesn't work the middle of the field a lot. And when he does, it's not necessarily pretty. NFL teams aren't going to ask him to do that more than likely. This is going to be a guy who's going to be asked to be downfield. He ran a lot of deep comeback routes. That'll play well in the NFL as well. So I like him. I like him. I'm going to be interested to see what these guys can do in Mobile, though, because a lot can change. We're watching film, some of these guys from 2024. We don't know what we're going to get and what they're going to do against some better talent, because we're going to see a group of really good defensive players in Mobile that could change the way that we look at a lot of these guys. So, all right, folks. Well, there are our top 6 wide receivers. Now let's get to the rest of this field here. These are the 5 we think you need to care about. Now, this is a large field, Cam. We've got 18 wide receivers who are going to be in Mobile. We're not going to talk about all of them, but these are the guys you need to pay attention to outside of that top 6. The first one's Ted Hurst, Georgia State, small school guy. He's a speedster. good hands, lanky arms, wide catch radius, much like Caleb Douglas. Good mid-route footwork. He gets off the snap quickly, but he played at Georgia State. And I think we watched his film and we can collectively say we like what we saw, but against much lesser competition. And that's going to be a concern as we head into Mobile, the combine, and the draft with Ted Hurst.
So Ted Hurst is 6'3", 195 pounds. I don't necessarily see him playing like he's 6'3". He does get bumped off of his routes. He has some struggles against press coverage or guys that are being physical with him. But every broadcast that I watched film on, they have graphics ready for Ted Hurst. He's one of the probably top guys at Mobile. He's just barely outside of that top 6 that we talked about. But he was at a smaller school playing smaller competition. We watched his Vanderbilt tape when he went up against them, and he did well. But I don't know. He has a nice package of releases. He's great on the curls. He's a very fiery player. He's talking to the other team's sideline out there. So I think he's got some of that dog in him. We're just going to have to see it in Mobile when he's playing against all of these other guys that are trying to make their case to get into the NFL on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, he could absolutely blow up and we could be incredibly impressed with him, or he could completely tank it and he could be off of our boards heading into the draft. All right, Barion Brown over at LSU. I liked watching him, not in my top 6 for a couple of reasons. But he has great hands. He adjusts the ball well to make difficult off-target catches. He's another one of those guys that has a really wide catch radius with his lanky arms, even though he's only 5'11". He makes some quick cuts in traffic. He's got really good footwork. My biggest concern with Barion Brown is just experience, I suppose. He came out of Kentucky. Then he one season at LSU. I liked a lot of what I saw, but also I think he might be at his ceiling. I don't know that there's a whole lot that he can improve on. And if this is what he is, he's a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 at the NFL level, and that's probably going to be his cap.
I think the NFL is going to draft him for his kick return and punt return abilities. If you turn on any of his tape, you're going to immediately see that he's electric with the ball in his hands. He returned a number of returns for touchdowns this past year. He's fast. He's the fastest player in college football. If you play the college football video game for 2026, he's got a 99 speed, and it is on the tape. I cannot exaggerate how fast Barion Brown is. He's used in screens. He's used in jet sweeps. They're really trying to take advantage of his speed over at LSU. So that will probably be something that transfers over into the NFL. With the ball in his hands, he's using his elusiveness to run away from guys. He's tough to get your hands on. He knows how to set up his cuts so that if you think you're going to get a clean wrap, he's actually going to be able to shed that tackle. So even though he's only 5'11", 185 pounds, he is a tough guy to bring down. I like his route running. I don't know if it's going to be up to par with what you're going to need in the NFL. In college, it was great because he can run away from guys. But against NFL schemes and defenses, this is a guy that I really want to pay attention to, see if he develops in Mobile, track him through the draft process, because he could be a really high ceiling wide receiver for us, but he also has that same opportunity to be a bust and just another fast guy out on the field.
And that's going to be my concern. It's like he is speedy, but there are things in his route running that aren't going to translate well to the NFL. And I feel like at points he's a one-tool player, and that might just be, he might be a kick returner, which is great. And if you're in fantasy leagues with kick returners, cool. He'll be great for you. That doesn't happen very often. Kevin Coleman at Mizzou, SEC prospect. He's another one of those guys sitting at 5'11", 180. He doesn't, for his size, I expected him to be a little bit faster. I don't think his speed is anything exceptional. He's not super quick, but he gets by because he has good hands and he uses his body to make catches, which drives me nuts. But it also, these smaller guys, sometimes it works for him to bring it in. I know my 8-year-old loves to do it that way. So, hey, there's something to it, right? He has deceptive edge speed, despite not having high top end speed. I think this is a guy who's going to come into the NFL. He's going to be like a jet sweep package guy, kind of gadgety, and I don't see much more for Kevin Coleman than that, Cam.
I saw the body catches on the film. There was a plenty of catches where he's catching the ball away from his body. He's showing late hands. So I don't think that that's actually something that's going to be transferable, and he's always going to be a body catcher, but it does show up. It is on the film. He takes contact when he's making his catches and is able to secure those. He runs a lot of short stuff. He doesn't leave the ground when he's making catches, which is something that we should call out because there's a lot of guys that are going to jump and try to make these catches more difficult. And then it's a little bit tougher to turn that into yak. So he's great at just transitioning upfield after he gets the ball. Make some highlight plays. I wouldn't expect those to transfer over into the NFL as far as like highlight one-handed catches, but it's on the tape, so it's something we should call out.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how much of his game other than really that like kind of gadgety stuff will translate, but we'll see. That's why we're here. It's why you're here to watch these guys. Trey Wallace out of Ole Miss. I really liked his film. He's just a general route runner, talented. He wins most of his routes. Good speed, in a good program. I'm kind of surprised he's going to be in Mobile, to be honest. He was a guy that I didn't think would come out, but here we are. Tell me about Trey Wallace. What do you love the most about him, Cam?
Hey, he wins the superlative for me for best headshot. Go look up his headshot at Ole Miss. We'll get it in our shorts later so that you can see it if you're going to catch these short versions. He won all over the field. He runs the full route tree. They line him up everywhere. I really like Trey Wallace. I'm excited to see what he does at Mobile. I didn't necessarily see any yak abilities from him, but he does try to avoid hits when catching the ball, which is something that keeps you on the field because you're not getting injured taking big hits. He had good hand placement, caught some low balls, caught some high balls, balls outside of his frame. So I think there's upside here. I would like to see more in Mobile when he's going up against some of that top defensive talent.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. He might have the highest ceiling of this group here that we're talking about of the rest, but I'm going to need to see what he does in Mobile. Now, Vinny Anthony, the last one we're going to talk about here out of Wisconsin. This is a guy who runs the full route tree. He does it well. His footwork is kind of choppy. He works well in traffic though. Despite that, some of that he has really deceptive speed. Cam. He slows his progress in routes, but he operates really well in zone coverage. He's another one of those guys, and we're going to see this a lot with these college receivers, where he's good at finding the soft spots. Man coverage, we didn't see as much. I want to see that in Mobile to see how he handles that. Wisconsin just was drawing a lot of zone this season. Vinny Anthony, for you, where do you put him in this second group of wide receivers?
Yeah, he's at the bottom of this group, right where we have him on this graphic. My favorite thing is his deceptive speed. He was able to really pull away from defenders once the ball's in the air, which I didn't really see from a lot of these other guys. They're running their tempoed routes, but when the ball gets in the air for Vinny, he is pulling away from the guys that are covering him. So he does have that like extra gear, that extra bit of burst. Let's see how it translates when it's in Mobile. Thought he ran great routes, lined him up all over the field. I didn't have too many like major takeaways on Vinny, but I liked what I saw, and I'm excited to see some more.
Yeah, for me, he profiles as a possession receiver, a la like Mike Williams. You're not going to get anything super exciting. You're not going to get a lot of yak, but you're going to get a reliable pass catcher. And he's probably going to
Yeah.
go down on first contact, which is a lot of what we
Not a
saw.
lot of yak as well.
Yep.
That's right in my
Yep.
notes.
Yep. All right. Bust potential. The first one we're going to talk about is Barion Brown. I think for all the reasons that we kind of listed, like great quick returner, good speed, but seems to have a limited cap skill set at the NFL level. Cam, where are you at, like percentage wise? 60-40, 50-50 on where he ends up as a bust or as someone who's actually viable in fantasy?
Yeah, he's definitely more of like a 40% he's going to hit and 60% he's going to bust. I thought his hand placement was so out there. He's really just winning because he's out ahead of these guys and getting himself open. Um, let's see how it translates. It's really easy when you're going against college competition and college schemes, but you get to the next level, NFL defenses are better at hiding what they're going to do. And he's going to need to be able to read that and continue getting open. Maybe he needs a little bit more nuance in his routes. But yeah, I think it's like a 40% he makes it, 60% he busts. But NFL teams are going to draft him for his kick returning abilities. So I could still see him being a day two pick. Uh, that's just kind of where I'm at on Barion Brown.
Yeah, I can see him being a day two pick as well. For NFL teams, there's a lot there to like. He's a special teams guy who's going to excel at kick returns and punt returns. He's a good like 4-receiver package, spread package wide receiver. You can roll him into the slot or out wide. He can do all of that, just not anything exceptionally well other than the kick returning, which is definitely where I could see him getting a spot on an NFL roster. Honorable mention, Ted Hurst. I know there isn't an absolute ton of hype for him yet, guys, but I want to caution you when it does start after Mobile and the Combine. This is still a guy who is playing D2 competition at Georgia State. That means something. He's going to face a lot more difficult coverage schemes, cornerbacks with much more speed and much more physicality at the NFL level. So as much hype as there is, if this is a guy who's even creeping into the second round of rookie drafts, I would be very careful with him, Cam.
I think he's a guy that if you're in your rookie draft and someone wants to move up to get him, go ahead and let him take that guy. I like Ted Hurst. I liked what I saw on film. I thought he was violent as a route runner, but he really struggled against physical coverage. And that's going to be something. He did put on 10 pounds going from his junior year into his senior year, but he's probably going to need to put on another 10 pounds of like functional play strength in order to overcome the physicality that he's going to see at the next level.
Yep, absolutely. All right, folks. Well, that is going to do us for here. Hold on. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here at Optimus Fantasy Football. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back with tight ends later in the week, and then you can find us all week in Mobile starting on January 26th through January 31st for the Senior Bowl game. Make sure you are following us here on YouTube. Check us out on Spotify and TikTok. We're going to be dropping content all week long as well on optimusfantasy.com, so don't miss it.